they're playing on the Saturday nights, on the Sunday mornings when we have this. That's the devil's music. It's strange that all of these things, you know, it's like, oh no, it's just for decency. It's like, you're really sure it's not because they're challenging your power base?
Oh yeah, of course it is. That's the whole thing.
That's always what it is, isn't it?
That's what I've only seen it there now. I didn't even realise the song existed. Wings, it was Paul McCartney's band after the Beatles. They had a song band called "Give Ireland Back to the Irish."
Oh, did you not know that?
No, never even heard of it. Which they wrote after the events of Bloody Sunday, and that was banned.
Paul McCartney actually had a lot of stuff to say about Ireland in general as well. He's the Beatles themselves as well. They were a little bit sort of hey, England should be out of Ireland really and should be meddling in the affairs.
Yeah, good on. But yeah, I think a lot of it is like politically based. Like definitely with a lot of metal stuff. Like a lot of metal, they're saying, oh, it's kind of like against public decency. Whereas like really like Fade to Black by Metallica, they were saying that it was promoting suicide. Where it's like, no, it actually isn't. It helps a lot of people that are down, kind of like, you know, come out of the rut. But then you had
the trouble is, I think they did. Some kid who did commit suicide actually had the lyrics.
That was but you always get that.
But that's you get that with any songs.
But that's not just book, or that's not just movie. That's books as well. Like so many people were like saying like Catcher in the Rye,
yeah,
which is the one that everyone knows. It's like it promotes like people going off and killing themselves because I think it was like. Wasn't it the guy who killed John Lennon like had like 3 or 4 copies of it?
He was like fucking like, obviously he was like proper batshit crazy. There was last podcast on the left did an episode about him. He thought that he was being controlled by these little people.
Like numbskulls?
Kind of, yeah. But the whole thing was that in his fantasy even, he wasn't like in charge of them. They were in charge. It's like Dwight Schrute, kind of like, I'll be the assistant manager. But if you can look up the episode of that, and it was like a really, really funny episode. Like he was like fucking really, really, really bad. Like I didn't realise how mentally he actually was on the list because I don't really have much interest in John Lennon and all that, or at least I didn't anyway. I still don't. I'm not kidding, but it's there's a lot of.
See, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I actually don't know if it was banned originally, but I mean, like any song that kind of says anything that comes close to being uncomfortable, like I mean, "Strange Fruit," that was a song that was quite uncomfortable because
"Strange Fruit." I don't know.
It was directly about like lynchings and stuff like that. It would have been sort of. I think it was a Billie Holiday song originally, but it was about like basically it was "Strange Fruit." It was about like black people hanging out of trees. What strange fruit is this kind of a thing, you know? But any time somebody comes close with sort of lyrics that actually make people uncomfortable or speak the truth that is a very uncomfortable truth, it tends to be well let's just ban the song because I'd rather not think about what a horrible shitty society
well, it's what
we
people
have.
don't understand. Like I mean the whole thing, like I was saying, like my experience with it in the 80s, it started off with like Ozzy Osbourne and Judas Priest, and there was a big court case over it saying whether people thought that it's a guy that was after killing himself saying and it's like if you play Barrett it sounds like shoot, and like they went in, they stood up for themselves, and Judas Priest in particular, like Rob Hall, they were all very intelligent people,
and Dee Snider of all people as well.
But that was a different thing. That was with the what were they called?
Twisted Sister.
No, that was with the
MPAA.
Yeah, or whatever they were. What the fuck were they called? But yeah, you're just throwing me off anyway.
Sorry.
But the whole thing.
Ozzy Osbourne, Judas Priest.
Ozzy Osbourne and Judas Priest, yeah, where they went in and they said, look, they're saying to you that I think he brought something in and he played it backwards, and he said, if I told you this is what it's saying backwards, this is what you're going to hear. And then it just got thrown out of court because they went, yeah, we can see that. But Ozzy Osbourne's one was brilliant, where he's like, the fence was, if I wanted everyone that bought my album to kill themselves, then the sales for the next album wouldn't be particularly high.
Yeah, my audience base wouldn't be particularly wide if they all committed suicide. It'd be kind of
Plus,
stupid.
if Ozzy Osbourne had this power of like, I've discovered like this magic power of hypnotism by putting voices in backwards in records, will I use it to make them be really enamored with my music, or will I use it to make them kill themselves and worship Satan? I'll do the latter.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the thing as well. There was a lot of stuff about, it's kind of like they're trying to get people kind of like in league with the devil. You look back at him now, like Ozzy Osbourne, he said himself, the only black magic he ever dabbled were the chocolates.
Yeah.
But you know, you had like people that were Satan, like Sammy Davis Jr. was a Satanist, like he was a proper Satanist, and like people didn't really pick up, but it's just all these kind of
easy targets is what it is. That's all it is.
But it was the Parents Music Resource Centre. That's what PMRC, Tipper Gore and all those that ended up going after the guys. But that was with Dee Snider. They brought him and they had the court case with him where they wanted to have that public decency thing. And he went in and represented the whole thing, and they saw him coming in. I can't remember we saw an interview with him. We was talking about it, going on, saying, they were like, oh yeah, look at this moron coming in, and he fucking tore him apart.
Decimated him, because he's a smart guy, like, Jesus Christ.
Where it was just all about, you're doing this, and if anyone kind of like into horror movies, go and look at Trick or Treat. Like the start of it kind of covers it very kind of where it's like Sammy Kerr is in there saying you're trying to legislate morality, and she can't legislate morality, and that's the whole thing with it. It seems people, it's just another fucking thing of control. But of course it was metal and rap music that got targeted a lot. They ended up having to kind of like explicit lyrics, which I presume haven't got a CD or in years. I presume they're still on.
I presume there's still parental advisory stickers. Because but the trouble is they actually had the opposite effect.
It was the best advertising. If you saw something when it was like right and getting that album, that's what I ended up getting, like Onyx and Snoop Dogg before Snoop Dogg was like popular. Because of those, it was like seeing it.
Yeah, if you saw an album with parental advisory in the front, you're like, shit, this must be good. I'm going to get that, even if you've never heard of the band before. You're like, well, okay, I'll try it out because clearly the lyrics must be shit hot.
And they
it was pretty much just like, for any teenager who wants to rebel, which is pretty much every teenager, because it's just hardwired into most teenager systems. It's just a button that's going, hey, your parents are going to hate this. Go buy it.
Yes,
and for the most part, most parents probably were like, I don't give a shit, but like, it already triggered that into people's heads.
But I don't know, maybe it's just kind of, this sounds very stereotypical, but maybe it's European outlook versus American outlook, because it never seemed to be a thing in Ireland, like the parental advisory thing. It was just like, whatever, off you go. But my parents never bothered, your parents never bothered. It was like, whatever.
No, sure,
fine.
I used to send my mother in when I was like 12 to go into the record store when she was in town, and they give her a list of kind of things and say, just pick out one of those for me.
Yeah.
So like I used to have my mother going in by Deicide Records.
Well, that was
I remember she was saying, like, they were giving me some funny looks in there. What's this Deicide band that you're giving out? It was like Trifixation, I think was the name of it. Or Legion, I think was the album that she was buying.
Well, that was like, my dad used to give me Prince albums, and in fact that was my first concert that he brought me to when I was about 11, was a Prince concert. I mean, the lyrics in Prince songs are fucking filthy.
Prince isn't someone who's ever faced kind of like, because Prince is non-threatening.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. But it does seem to be a thing. Like, I mean, I suppose we haven't been brought up in the States, so we don't see the kind of the outlook there. But like, just because the internet is a thing now and all the rest, and reading people's experiences have been brought up in America in the 80s and all the rest, apparently it was a thing in the States. People were like, they really were big on the fucking parental advisory thing. It's like, no, you're not allowed to get that because it has a sticker on it and you can't. And it's like this whole Harry Potter thing, like, oh my god, it's witchcraft, you're not allowed to read that because
that's
it's fucking,
just people talking about, like,
fucking bananas.
Album burning things, so like very similar to kind of like book burning fucking things.
It's just fucking crazy to me, like, that people are that sort of prescriptive and, like, I don't know, just easily led. I don't know.
They are. People are morons. Yeah. Go over to our Facebook page and
come on,
and donate to our Patreon.
Yes,
Patreon
please,
is good. Patreon is great.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, it seems to be it's not just metal bands that bear the brunt. It's although some of my favourite ones, actually, music videos. It's a Typo Negative for My Girlfriend's Girlfriend, heavily censored because it was basically him just boning two women in a bed. And was the Christian Woman. It's where you familiar with Typo Negative, Mark?
Mm.
I would be familiar with them to a degree. Like,
We're going to do one of their
songs.
There are albums for a classic album thing at some stage. But there's...
I like them. I wouldn't have listened to all their albums. It would have been kind of a song here or a song there. And for the most part, I liked them. So I don't know why I never really got into them more.
There was a song they did called Christian Woman, which is basically about a teenage girl looking up at Jesus on the crucifix in her bedroom. And she starts fingering herself, basically looking at it. But in the video, it's Pete Steele on the cross as Jesus. And he gets down off the cross and bangs her. Basically, but the video was him banging her, which they cut out a lot of it. But one of the things I was surprised about when I went looking up some of the stuff as well was I forgot all about that Jesus Christ pose. The video for that by Soundgarden was fun, which they thought that it was like a real anti-religion kind of song. and anti-Christian, which it's... I don't know.
I haven't said that. I suppose as well, like, there's an awful lot of stuff that you sort of forget that could be construed as really it's only when you look at it with other people's eyes, I suppose. There was this thing recently in work. It was kind of, they decided to do this like Friday afternoon playlist where they were going to share it on social media, and they asked everybody for suggestions of videos, and I was like, yeah, fine. And I was going to suggest a video, and then I went, oh, hang on a minute, this is for like a work thing, I better not. I was going to send in a Behemoth thing, and then I went, no, I better not send that, because it's like there's lots of blood and there's fucking people being crucified and there's like tits and there's okay, not this. And then I was like, I better not send that in, because there's just quite a lot of swearing in that. And then I was like, oh, I'll send in a live video. And I was going to send in a really bland Metallica one, and then I was like, all right, slam your fucking tits together, faggots. And I was like, shit, I can't send that one in. So I was like, I scrolled through like 15 different videos before I found one that was like relatively inoffensive, and I was like, okay. And then I was like, okay, when you actually start looking at it, trying to find something that's non-offensive, you kind of go, oh, there's quite
everything
a lot
is
of
going to, there's always going to be something that offend people.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the thing is, like, I mean, you look at it now, like Mark was saying, like Nicki Minaj and all these people nowadays. And
that's it, I know, and it's so scantily
Miley
clad,
Cyrus get...
Wasn't she fucking swinging herself around on a wrecking ball with fucking knickers?
And what's ridiculous is that, for the most part, I think this comes from a societal thing that in America, where if they see like profanity, or even just kind of like profanity, for most part seems to be like the big thing, where it's like hot button, like, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that. But like sexuality, like they just go, oh, sure, that's like a 5-year-old, that's no problem, kind of like to the degree where it's, or even like war films and whatnot, like where they get lower. Whereas when you were just talking about like the parental advisory kind of stickers and whatnot, it reminded me, one of the first albums I happened to see it on myself was Eminem's album Encore. One of the first albums I got of Eminem's, actually, but when I was just looking it up earlier on, it was interesting. That album actually was released simultaneously with a censored version, because they were like, people were so outraged that like he said like all these horrible lines, so they were like, oh no, the album can go out, but like instead of saying dick, can you say duck, and can we change things here and there? And you see it like going to the degree like in music videos or whatnot, where nowadays they just like take the word out. So it's like I can't even remember who it was, but you know that song, I see you driving around town with the girl I knew? No?
I have a vague recollection, but I couldn't tell you who it is.
Yeah, I can't remember myself either now. Not really great, but what really annoyed me for a while was on like music videos and whatnot, it would be like they just like the next line in that is, and he just said fuck you. So they just took out the fuck part, so it's like, drive around town with the girl I knew, you. And you're just like
you. Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense whatsoever. Just like
when they censor these things, it's just annoying, because it's not really making the person go, oh, I didn't know what that word is. You're just playing a game of like charades with the audience, where it's like, I didn't say it, but you know what I said.
Well, what annoys the most about sort of the censorship thing is like, it seems to be that like misogyny is okay, but homosexuality is not. Violence is okay, but like, you know, it's sort of certain offensive things are okay, but like, you know, again, it's down to the morality police, but it's a certain
which
type
is usually
of
the shouty minority.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's like it's fine for certain sort of like old-fashioned offensiveness is okay, but like newfangled offensiveness is not, if you know what I mean. It's kind of like, oh well, like I was saying, it's fine if like we offend women, but that's okay.
Well, you look at it in the 80s, say we were saying about Queen would have wanted to break free and stuff, but you had Madonna was constantly getting banned for stuff, and like, I mean, Sinead O'Connor, no, none of her video, but she just got banned from TV just in general.
Exactly.
Well, you can see why she got banned from TV.
Yeah, but George Michael as well, with stuff like I Want Your Sex. It's so kind of like juvenile.
Yeah, but I bet you if he was singing that about a woman, probably wouldn't have gotten banned, but everyone knew because he was singing it kind of about men.
Well, at that time, had he come out as gay at that time?
No, but they would have known. Yeah, it was like a terrible kept secret, you know. It's But they had the whole thing with Madonna, was it like a prayer? because it was
Yeah,
like Jesus
like a
as a
pair,
black man.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Yeah.
oh my god. I was like, what's wrong with
Jesus
it?
was like, well, he probably would have been fairly.
Yeah. He's a fucking
dark-skinned.
fictional character.
Yeah,
He can
But
be
also
any
he's a
colour.
fic-
They can
like-
fucking have him purple.
Regardless of that, though, he's like, he's from the Middle East. He's like, have you
Exactly.
seen people from the Middle East?
Yes.
They're not white.
Yeah.
That's what, like, what's his face? Tommy Tiernan always says. Think Danny DeVito